Roth. I'm an entrepreneur, a small business advocate, and an on-air contributor for CNBC, and I am thrilled to welcome you to the Small Business Social Series hosted by Bank of America. I am really excited about this topic today because it is near and dear to my heart. We're talking about women in business, and we're talking about rising revenues, rising optimism, and rising power, and how you can take advantage of that momentum. Now, I'm all about capitalizing on opportunities, and I want you to have that same opportunity to do so. And you're going to be able to do so by getting great insights from our panel of power women. And I want to take a quick moment to introduce everybody, and I am so excited to have this team here. So first we have Jill Calabrese Bain, who is a small business banking national sales executive with Bank of America. Hey, Jill.
Hey, Carol. How are you?
I'm amazing. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Next up, we have Darla Beggs, who is the chair with NAWBO. Hey, Darla.
Good morning. How are you, Carol?
Doing very well, thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have Kimberly Weisul, who is the editor-at-large with Inc.
Hey, hi, Carol. Great to be here.
All right, I'm really excited for this. And, you know, as a woman in business, I know that we all face so many unique challenges, but we also have so many unique opportunities. So I want to talk a little bit about the state of women in business, and then, of course, some great tips and takeaways that you can apply in your own business. So to kick it off, I'm going to start by gathering some information. We've had all of these fantastic conferences ranging from NAWBO to the Inc. Women's Summit that have enabled women to come together and to share. And so, Darla, why don't you kick us off? After spending time with hundreds of women business owners, what were some of the hottest topics and takeaways from your NAWBO event?
Well, thank you, Carol. Let me just start by saying how very pleased we are to have been able to partner with Bank of America again this year as our presenting sponsor. They've been a wonderful partner, and they really understand small businesses, and the commitment to small business is evident. So the theme for our conference this year was the power of you. And what we focused on was how business owners can harness that power and grow and expand their businesses. We know it's statistically proven that when women start businesses, the economy gets better. And so we looked at issues like access to capital, ways to incorporate technology, and growing your brand in a way to offer value and valuable resources to our members so they could take it back to their chapters as well as put it in place in their businesses.
All right, well, certainly access to capital, technology, personal branding, all really important. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but Jill, I want to bounce over to you because you had an opportunity to attend both the NAWBO event and the Inc. Women's Summit. What were some of your big takeaways and hot topics?
Well, what I absolutely loved about both of these conferences was really the diversity of the participants. So you had everyone from, professionals within the risk management space to the construction management space, very non-traditional roles, to making. And these women are a force. They are a driving force. And what we see is that women businesses are being created at twice the rate of their male counterparts. So it's a really exciting time for women. There's 9.1 million women-owned businesses employing 7.9 million people. So think about those statistics.
Yay, women!
And one thing that I thought was really interesting, being surrounded by women and influenced by a report that Bank of America did earlier this year, was around what are the key qualities that both men and women think about. And for men, it was really confidence and tech savviness. And for women, curiously, empathy, creativity, and our ability to multitask. So I leave you with that. I think that that's very interesting for all women to think about, but certainly nothing that we learned in graduate school, but all things that women are employing today.
They should teach that in grad school. You know, it's interesting, those types of characteristics, the empathy and the creativity, the multitasking, I think those could be either a challenge or an opportunity for women business owners. So Jill, would you say that one of the big takeaways is to really embrace those and make those a strength and not let them hold you back?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, everyone needs to be authentic with who they are, and so you got to pick what it is that you're good at and really work on, leveraging the power of that strength for whatever it is that you want to accomplish in your business.
Kimberly, from the Inc. Women's Summit, what were the big things that stood out to you? We having a little problem here, Kimberly? Go ahead, Kimberly. Go ahead.
I want to respond to that, to what Jill had said. We did some really good, can you hear me? We did some great research at Inc. About leadership, and we found that those traits that she's mentioning, like empathy, creativity, multitasking, are increasingly what people want from their leaders. So I definitely say that this is an opportunity for women. Yes, perhaps a challenge, but a huge opportunity. The two themes that came out of the Inc. Women's Summit, which were so inspirational to me personally, were growth and corporate culture. And the reason that I love that these two things kind of percolated is because it shows that these women are building companies really for the long haul. So growth was about, how do I know when it's time to double down? How do I know which investors are right for me? It wasn't really tactical about, how do I find someone? How do I get introduced? It was all very strategic. Same thing on the corporate culture. How do we grow and protect our corporate culture as the company grows? And again, on the long-term front, what about bringing in family members? These are businesses that are being built for lifetime. So I love to see that. It's really inspirational.
What do you take away from that? Because I think that really is a shift when you think about women in business, from that tactical, how do I do it, to now, listen, I've got a little bit of a sense of what to do, but now I'm really thinking towards the big picture, towards that strategy.
I mean, I love to see that the emphasis has shifted away from the tactical a little bit, because I think those things are important. But I think when you get together with other successful, ambitious women business owners, you want to be talking at a higher level than that, right? Because a lot of that tactical stuff you can get from your attorney, which is great. I've got nothing against attorneys. But I love to see that people were thinking so big, and so I feel like it's a real maturation of the space, and it's great to see.
That certainly is very exciting from my standpoint. It's interesting. One of the things that I didn't hear you all say, but I hear a lot in terms of a big challenge for women in business, is really around the concept of time management and that great unicorn of work-life balance. So, Jill, let's start with you. What would your advice be to a woman who is trying to run a business, manage a family, take care of herself, maybe have some time to eat and shower along the way?
Well, I don't have all the answers. You can ask my husband and my children, and they'll be the first to tell you that we're not perfect. But it's really allowing ourselves not to be perfect. And, I think it's about women business owners, just like their male counterparts. We want to be smarter and more efficient about the way that we do business. So, you've got to be in the moment. If you're home with your family, be in the moment with your family. If you're in the office, then be in the moment and focused on what it is that you want to accomplish. But what I really liked about both conferences, so Eileen Fisher at the Women's Summit for Inc., and also at the NAWBO conference where we had the founders of Georgetown Cupcakes, both of those companies in different stages of maturation really talked about how to leverage technology, how to leverage data to be more efficient. And, in the case of cupcakes, it's about how many people are coming in the door. What's the flavor? What's the best flavor on a Monday? Do pink boxes sell better than white boxes? So you never know what it's going to be, but their ability to manage data in both instances really helped them to accelerate and mature their businesses, I think, at a steady, profitable rate.
Yeah, technology really is this great equalizer, and the nice thing is that the price of it has come down, the accessibility of it has opened up, and so now small business owners really are able to harness it, I think, in a way that they never were before, Jill, because you wouldn't think maybe 5 or 10 years ago that the cupcake shop is, at the cutting edge of technology.
Exactly.
Kimberly, I'm going to jump over to you. Do you have any work-life balance?
Well, I think I do, but most people I know think I'm psychotic. So it's definitely in the eye of the beholder. One thing that really struck me from our Inc. Women's Summit was that we had very successful women on stage. We were amazed at the women that were giving their advice. One was Eileen Fisher, who Jill mentioned. Another was Ann Finucane, who is like very, very high up at Bank of America and their head of strategy. And, I asked them, was there a time when your career had to take a back seat? Do you have it all? both these women, by any measure, traditional measure, they have it all. And they both said, of course I don't have it all, right? They also both said there were times where they either did or should have put their family first. And they just sort of shrugged it off. They were like, you know what? Somebody else raced past me that year. I'm going to get them next time around. And so what I took away from that was that we don't need to angst about this as much as we do. We need to check in with our gut and do what's right that day. And I think Anne said it best. She said, you know, guys don't have it all either. They just don't worry about it. You know, and that to me was very liberating, to have people at that level say, no, of course I don't have it all. Let's stop trying to have it all and just try to have a great day.
Well, I will tell you, Kimberly, that psychosis and work-life balance are not mutually exclusive, so no worries about that.
Thank you.
Darla,
I'm so happy to hear that.
What do you think about what Kimberly said? Is this a definitional issue of what balance is, or is there something deeper here?
Oh, it's absolutely a definitional issue, and thank you for Kimberly for saying that out loud. You know, there's no secret to maintaining balance, and balance looks different for every single one of us. Small business owners balance so many different responsibilities. There's their tasks, their concerns, their businesses, their employees, their families, their communities, and they've got all those balls up in the air trying to juggle them at the same time. So every single day for a small business owner, the balancing act is going to look different, and you know, we just need to accept that and gravitate to it and move forward as best we can, and not beat ourselves up over it.
I think it's interesting that you use the image of the balancing act, because I think that's how I really think about balance. I think far too many people think it needs to be everything in perfect harmony, exactly flat, and I kind of feel like if you've got all the plates spinning, as long as none of them have crashed to the ground and broken, that you're probably golden. Would you say that's true, Darla?
I would absolutely agree with that.
I think it's even okay if the cheap plates fall down and break, frankly.
That's good. I'm going to add that one in there, right? As long as it's not the good china, that you're doing fine. Or use paper plates.
There we go.
Entrepreneurial. Always thinking.
Yeah. Love it.
You know, Darla, I want to circle back to one of the topics that you brought up at the beginning, and that's around the concept of a personal brand. I am obviously a very big advocate of the personal brand as something I've used in my own business with great success. But what's your take on it? What is your definition of the personal brand? Why do you think it's important, and how does a small business owner begin to create one and to leverage it?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because you know, at the end of the day, all we have is our reputation, and the reputation as a small business owner is what our brand is all about. But I heard someone say one time, the brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, and I love that. Because
you know, it's funny, Darla, I have to interrupt you. I call that Thanksgiving dinner.
Okay, I love it. So true. But a reputable brand is vital to maintaining and growing a business, and we all disseminate the word and use it differently, and things have changed, but at the end of the day, it's an integral part of what we do, and we have to be aware of it, and we need to walk the walk and talk the talk, because growing your business and growing your brand is part of the deal.
Kimberly, do you think it's part of the deal? Do you think the personal brand is a must-have for the small business owner?
I mean, I think personal brand, especially for entrepreneurs, is critical because so often their brand is tied up with their company's brand, right? They're really inextricable. There's a guy named Greg Shove who is a genius about social media, and he says when you think of your brand, you should think of two things that have to do with your industry or your work, and one thing that's more personal is more like a values sort of thing. And then every time that you speak about your industry, every time that you blog, every time you're on social media, you should be consistent to those three things. And I think that's great advice for a way to start thinking about personal brand for maybe people who have, excuse me, not been as intentional about it as others. But honestly, when it comes to personal brand, I feel like I should be asking you the questions.
Well, that's fair enough. I'll chime in a second. You know, Jill, I want to get your perspective on this. You know, what do you think the importance of the personal brand is, and how do you go about building one?
Well, I think it's critically important. I grew up the daughter of a small business owner, so my dad, you could not separate the man and the integrity from the business. The two go hand in hand. So, you know, why do you want to do business with Joe? Because he's a good guy and he produces good quality materials. So when I think about small business, women, business owners, it's really about, you know, the work doesn't always speak for itself. We need to create the brand. And for women, what I'd really love to impress is that people want to hear your voice, and we often get questions about thought leadership and what does that mean. And an entrepreneur once asked just a couple of weeks ago, is that something you do for free, or is that something you get paid for? And I thought to myself, it's something you do for free until you can get paid for it, right? So it's important that women continue to share their voice, so they're sought after for their opinion, but also to know that you're always on stage, whether it's a verbal or a nonverbal communication. Are you leaving people with the impression that you want to leave them with? So whether or not it's a prospective client or a peer or, you know, with the industry you work, just always be thinking about, am I creating the brand that I want to create?
So I'm taking away from both what you and Kimberly are saying, and Kimberly, I hope you'll jump back in here in a second. You're not just talking about standing for something. That's a piece of it. You have to stand for something, but then you also want to have the extra visibility and credibility that comes along with having a brand.
Absolutely. And the one thing I would also say to entrepreneurs who are having trouble sort of defining their personal brand is to ask themselves a question that I love to ask business owners, which is, why is this company different because you are running it? And sometimes if they think about that, that will help them get to what is unique about them, about their role in the industry, about themselves as a leader that they can start to build a brand upon. That will be authentic.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I think so many small business owners are afraid of their own expertise, or at least don't recognize it. You know, as a person who is down in the trenches running your business, you don't realize how much domain expertise you have in whatever industry it is about running a small business, and really embracing that. You know, I often say, do you want to hire the person who wrote the article or who read the article? And it gives you that point of differentiation that in a sea of so many people who are competing for a customer or client's attention, to have that little shingle to put out there just gives you that little extra something that I think that you can really leverage.
Absolutely.
All right, so I want to move on to another topic that I hear as a hot one, something I get asked a lot around mentorship. And in fact, not only do I get the question, how do I find a mentor, I often get people who don't even know me coming up to me day one saying, Carol, it's so nice to meet you. Will you be my mentor? Will you go to prom with me? Will you marry me? Yeah. Will you be my mentor? Kimberly, is that the right way to go about it?
Please no. Please no, no, no. But the flip side of that is that you can get great information and guidance from people that you don't know. I just don't recommend asking them flat out to be your mentor. What has worked fantastically for me, and I know I'm not the only one, is to approach someone, you know, preferably via email or even, you know, write a letter or pick up the phone and ask them a very specific question. I'm having difficulty making this choice. Here is my background. Here's what I think might happen. What do you recommend, right? Because it's not going to take a lot of thought for them to answer the question. If they get back to you and you follow their advice, follow up with them, let them know. And then, as I say, rinse and repeat. And eventually that person is going to become vested in your success. You might even become friends, but either way, you're going to learn a ton from them. And I think that's a lot more low-impact way to, for mentors and mentees to sort of test each other out without scaring off, like, will you be my mentor, which is totally frightening.
Jill, what do you think about that approach? Is that the way that you would advocate approaching mentorship? And what do you think the expectation should be with somebody who's looking for a mentor?
So, you know, my recommendation would be put together a group of trusted advisors around you, some of whom are like-minded and some of whom are not. So, you know, the people who have walked in your shoes can probably give you very sound advice with respect to, hey, what's around the next corner. But what I find is the folks that are completely outside of my industry are more likely to get to the truth faster because they're not tied up by any of the noise or the emotion associated with it. So I always get very good perspective in that way. You know, as it relates to how do you approach a mentoring relationship, I think it's critical that you show up, if you're the mentee, with an idea completely formulated. You know, as Kimberly said, show up prepared. This is where I am in the journey. This is how I plan on approaching this, and then get feedback. Because if you show up just asking the question, I don't know what to do, you're likely, that kind of open-ended question is probably not going to get you the advice you want. But if you show up very prepared and say, hey, there's the direction, here's the pros and cons as I see it, how do you feel about that?
That's such good advice that both of you hit on, to be so specific, because people do really their best work in answering a specific question rather than that open-ended question. I would also like to add that I feel very badly for anybody who's walked in my shoes, because I am prone to wearing 5-inch heels that do not fit me very well at any point in time. So that group is going to be in a lot of pain. Darla, you bring groups of people together. Hopefully not all of them wear the 5-inch heels. What do you think about mentoring from the networking standpoint? What can you add to this discussion?
Well, I truly believe mentoring is a very valuable tool, and it's important to us as business owners as we get busier and busier that we look for new options on how to mentor. And so one of the new options that we are considering and looking at right now is e-mentoring. So very soon, NAWBO will be rolling out a service to our members known as the Mentor Cloud. And the Mentor Cloud is a strategic global platform that is based upon mentoring and coaching that will allow our members and chapters across the country to connect with each other, share best practices, share ideas, look for guidance, create bonds, and hopefully build relationships that will move them to the next stratosphere for their business. Many of the business owners I know, they really want to give back. They really want to share. And small business owners can definitely feel isolated. They need to look to join an organization such as NAWBO or another relevant organization to find partnerships and mentors, and these are great places to look for those. So I think mentors, I think any small business owner can expect the mentor-mentee relationship to be valuable in terms of advice and resources and the empathy we need from time to time just as business owners when we're feeling like everything's going wrong and we need someone like our friends Jill and Kimberly to go, no, you're on the right track, you're doing fine.
I love that you hit on the technology again, enabling all different groups to come together. I also love that you mentioned how people want to give back. But Kimberly, I want to get back to you for one quick second here. Is there an element of WIIFM, everyone's favorite radio station, what's in it for me? You know, as a mentor, somebody's approaching you, they want your expertise. Do you have to be cognizant of what's in it for the other person, or should you just expect everybody is willing to share?
Maybe I'm naive. I think it's a little bit of both. I think that if you make it clear that you're not going to suck up the person's whole day, you really have one question, I think just about everyone is going to try to help you. I think people really do want to help. I also think especially young people get intimidated by that what's in it for me aspect. They feel like, what can I offer? Most people who are successful care deeply about their industry, and they want to see bright young people succeed. Right? They want to keep the jerks out, and they want to help the wonderful people along. So from that point of view, I think if you make a positive impression, a lot of people who are successful will say, wow, you know, this is someone that I might love to hire someday. This is someone I might love to refer to someone someday. And that does it. Networks work both ways. So I'm an optimist on that. I don't think you have to be explicit. This is how I'm going to help you out. I think you have to be polite. I think you have to not suck up people's time. But I don't think it always has to be tit for tat.
Jill, what about some light flattery that really you get people to talk about themselves by using the flattery that you've done so amazing and I want to be so much like you when I grow up, and if I could just get 5 minutes of your time, I would just be so honored.
Yeah, that doesn't quite work for me. I think they're probably talking about somebody else behind me. So, you know, if you have to be on it. Relationship, and I get a lot out of it because, you know, sometimes it's a pool of talent that I would not have necessarily, you know, been exposed to. So it's also good if I can help somebody on their journey, great. If I can pull them in on my team, even better. So there's, you know, you get something out of it both ways, and it's, you know, we talked about this in New York with Kimberly and her team about, you know, just advancing the development of women, and women with mentors are more likely to have a higher salary. They're more likely to ask for it. So it really gives people the confidence in mentoring relationships to kind of establish who they are and really go after kind of the 3 things that, you know, whatever it is important that we talked about earlier.
No, I think that's a great point, and I think that like one of the key takeaways is to not be waiting for that one person to be your be-all, end-all, that mythical, you know, great lady who's going to put her arm around you, take you under her right wing, and you're going to ride off into the sunset and be successful career women together. I think that it's that 5-minute mentoring, getting something from a variety of different people, which really exposes you to a whole set of different competencies. All right, I want to move on and ask you ladies to pull out your crystal balls, which I know you all have, or a magic 8-ball will work as well. But I want to look towards the future. We've got some great recent research by Bank of America, and they found that optimism is on the rise among small business owners, particularly women small business owners. So, Jill, since the Bank of America published this research, I'm going to start with you. What do you think is the driving force behind this optimism, and what does your crystal ball tell you for the rest of this year, next year, and beyond?
All right, I wish I knew, but I'll give you a couple of stats, and then I'll give you my own personal opinion. So yes, we are seeing women more excited, more optimistic. 70%, excuse me, of women believe their revenues are going to increase this year. Over 50% believe they're going to hire more full-time employees. So, you know, what's the driving force behind that? I don't have the statistical explanation, but what I do know is that this is a passionate group of people. They are approaching things in a very unique and different way. They're entering new industries, and they're more, I would say, confident about where they are today versus where they were with the economy in 2012. So we're definitely seeing a shift, and the conversations that our bankers across the country are having are now different. And I love the fact that women are coming out and are asking for counsel. They're having a conversation about, as Darla talked about, access to capital before, not being afraid of what does that mean and really trying to understand perspectives and expectations. So definitely I would say a lot more conversation is happening, which is really going to create the path for the future.
That is so good to hear after so many years of true uncertainty. Darla, does your crystal ball have the same outlook?
It does, actually. You know, we took a big hit during the recession, and with NAWBO, many of our members are small business owners, so we took a hit during that time. But small business owners seem to be rebounding. They're actively seeking innovative ways to grow their businesses, attract new business, employees, and accelerate growth. And certainly having access to capital is one of the things that's most important. It's certainly a direct connection between access to capital and confidence in growing your business. And I think small business owners are resilient by nature, and so we tend to be optimistic and believe that we can continue to grow our business. So that's what my crystal ball says.
So in terms of that access to capital point, I think it's an interesting one. Do you think that technology and crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending and having more sources of capital to draw from is part of what's enabling this increased optimism around access to capital?
I absolutely do. You know, again, women business owners tend to be afraid to ask for help, and so having all these different avenues to look for help, and frankly, having an organization like Bank of America that's focused on small business and understands the woman business owner, it's key to that comfort level to go out and ask for someone to help us grow our business. It's just so important.
All right, Kimberly, are you using the crystal ball or the magic 8-ball?
You know, I usually go with the magic 8-ball just because it's honest. It says it doesn't know, and it doesn't know. But I think there has been some really good news recently, not just the general loosening on the banking side, but there's been two interesting studies coming out showing that women are having more success at raising very early stage capital, which I love to see. One was a study of Kickstarter that showed that women are more likely to successfully complete Kickstarter campaigns than men. And that is mostly because there are more women investors on Kickstarter who are investing in other women. So that's kind of exciting.
And I'm going to jump in there, Kimberly, and I want to tie it back to what we were talking about in the beginning. Jill had mentioned some of the strengths around creativity and empathy. I think that's exactly the way to harness those types of strategic skills and put them into practice in something like raising capital through Kickstarter.
Absolutely, because the thing about a Kickstarter, it's less give me money, more this train's leading the station. Do you want to be part of something great? You know, and I think that's a kind of sell that women can really do exceptionally well. We're finding the same thing happening in the angel markets. I'm very optimistic.
Love it. I love the optimism. All right, well, that's a good place for us to start wrapping this up. So I want to talk to all of you. Get your one tip for success. We've had so many great insights, so much great information, but if you had one tip for a woman in business to succeed, Darla, what would it be?
You know, I probably should have this emblazoned on a T-shirt because people that know me say this all the time. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to identify those things that maybe aren't your strong points and get experts through its mentoring or through your banking relationship or through that great attorney. Find someone who helps you over those humps, because frankly, none of us can know it all. No one is a know-it-all in this area. We may think we are. But don't be afraid to ask for help, and find people that you trust, experts that you trust, to help you through those situations.
Absolutely. I would actually make the T-shirt and say help is not a 4-letter word. Because we all need it. We all need it. All right, Kimberly, what is your one tip for success?
Well, first, I want both those T-shirts when you guys have them made up. I think they're fantastic. What really came through to me from the Women's Summit was build your own business. You know, we have all these great rankings of fast growth businesses, you know, largest women-owned businesses. As an entrepreneur, you have tremendous authority and control to build a business that is gratifying to you, that is financially profitable, that is big, but you can do it on your own terms. So don't, you know, if you want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, great. But if you want to be the first Carol Roth, even better, and build a business that is really yours. Now, don't build someone else's business.
I love that insight. Jill, what's your one big tip or takeaway?
Yeah, I love that too, Kimberly. I would say surround yourself with very supportive, collaborative, strategic thinkers. You know, identify what the strategy is and then what the benchmarks for success is, and never, ever give up. That's what my mother told me. Never give up.
That's right. You get knocked down 7 times, you get up 8 times. Why not? All right, I'm going to add one in here as well, and that is to think big. I think that far too many women business owners get so focused on the micro aspects of their business that they forget about the big picture, they forget about setting goals, and they don't really push themselves. So my challenge is for you to just go ahead, take your goal, whatever it is, a revenue goal, a number of clients, and triple it. Even if you just get half of the way there, you're still going to be in a better place, you're still going to have a bigger business, and with 24 hours in a day, you might as well build a big business instead of just a small business. So with that said, we are going to leave it there for today. First, I have to thank my panel of fantastic power women, because not only were your insights so smart and so spot on, but you were just so generous with your sharing. So thank you so much to Darla Beggs from NAWBO, to Jill Calabrese Bain from Bank of America, and of course Kimberly Weisul from Inc. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks,
Thank you so much for having me.
And I want to thank you for taking the time to work on your business and on your success. It is so important that you do that, and I really do appreciate your time. So on behalf of Bank of America, I am Carol Roth, and we will see you next time.